Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast with Benji Naesen. This is the AG2R Citroën La Mondiale, whatever they're called now, preview podcast for 2021. It is, if you want me to actually tell you the correct one, it's AG2R Citroën Team. And apparently Citroën coming on board as a title sponsor has resulted in a pretty significant cash injection. I think they were in the lower third of budgets. Maybe I've made that up. Maybe I've read it somewhere. It's in my mind somewhere, so I'm going to run with it. And Citroën have bumped them up to maybe 55, 60% or 60th quartile in the World Tour. Obviously, Ineos being the 100th quartile or percentile, whatever it is. So that's good that they got a title sponsor on board, another one on board with some money. And we've obviously seen that in their transfers, which we're going to get to. But first, Benji, their 2020 review, we know the rules. 5 wins, 1 at World Tour level, that Nance-Péter's Tour de France stage win, beautiful stage win. 3 wins from Cosnefroy before, or 2 before lockdown, 1 after at 1-1, 2-1 level, and Paris-Camembert with Dorian Godon. Is that an underperformance or par?
I think that's an underperformance. You've got a team in 2020 at least that has the likes of Lanterne Rouge for cobble races. They've got Bardet for climbing, all that kind of stuff. They don't have the all-out favorites in those races, though. Lanterne Rouge is not the guy that takes it on and is able to beat Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert in the likes of Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. Now, I do believe in Tour of Flanders he was likely the third best cobble rider on that day. So I think he's just unlucky that there's such great generational talents around. And I think that bites them in the ass here. The problem is, I do believe they should do better on these small races. They should be in the position like Pedersen is in Gent-Wevelgem, where they've got multiple riders that can fit themselves at the front. We saw that the rider that got the most victories on that list is Benoit Cosnefroy. I believe he carried them throughout the season, kinda. The problem is that his races that he won were not next level quality. And I feel like Cosnefroy is going to improve that in 2021 because I really believe that he's got much, much more on the table. And he's got so many second places, third places in proper races. Second in Flèche Wallonne, if I recall correctly, as well last year. And Paris Tour behind Casper Pedersen, I think. And then, of course, Brabant-Sapel, where he got out-sprinted by Van der Poel and Alaphilippe in that stage. In Liège, I think he had a puncture or something just before one of the last climbs, and that's why he was unable to get with them with the best group there. I think if he didn't have that puncture, he might have been in the top 5 of that race at the end. So that's a bit of a skewed view when it comes to his results. I really believe that he could have done really well at LBL, and I think we're going to see that throughout the season as well. And he also gave them a lot of attention, some meme quality as well at the start of the Tour de France. We were very critical of the way he was able to keep the KOM jersey for quite a while in the Tour de France while getting dropped on the smallest of climbs sometimes. So in the end, I believe he's the kind of puncher that does not necessarily have that climbing ability. So he's kind of a better version of Gasparotto when it comes to the climbing.
He's pure puncher. He's literally like the pure puncher. Any climb over 10 minutes, he's no good. He's like as out with the sprinters, but a 3 to 4 minute climb or a steep pinch, he is nasty.
Yep.
And that's why Brabant-Sapel, Paris Tour, Britannia Classic, he's going to be good at that sort of race as well, I think. Omloop, why wouldn't he be good at Omloop, Benji?
I think he would be able to do as well in those kind of races as an Alaphilippe could do. I really believe that Alaphilippe at Tour of Flanders was playing a great role, obviously until the unfortunate motorbike accident. But I believe Cosnefroy could play it out like that. Yep. And I think he should be in both their team for the likes of Cobble Classics and the Hill Classics. The problem is that I don't think they're going to send them to the likes of a Cobble Classic because their team for Cobbles has twisted so much. We're going to talk about it in a second, about their transfers incoming and the team we would send to those Cobble races. I think that he fits in that branch that could go to either one of the two, but I'm pretty sure he's being sent to the Hill Classics instead at the moment.
So I haven't given my view on their 2020 season. Now, it's tough for teams like AG2R, who often a lot of their wins, say in 2018, they won 15 races. 2019, I think it was 17 races, 14 races rather. A lot of them are in these 2-1-1-1 French races, a lot of which were cancelled in the 2020 season. We only really have the top races occurring, so they didn't really get the opportunity to pad the scorebooks with those. And like they only won 2 World Tour races in 2019, and in 2018 they only won 3 World Tour races, 2 of which were at the Vuelta Grand Tour races. 2017, 2 World Tour races once again, one of which was the Tour de France stage win for Romain Bardet. So they just don't win a lot of big races, Benji, and they haven't for 3 to 4 years. So their 2020 season wasn't a massive underperformance for what they've really done before, but maybe because of that, the lack of winning those big races, if you're maybe you're living in France, maybe you're a hardcore cycling fan, you're even more into it than me, but Paris Camembert, 90% of you probably aren't watching it and haven't watched it the last 3 years. Maybe Benji has, I don't know, but I think they're focusing on the bigger races on TV now, and that's obviously why Citroën have come on. They're not coming in here to win La Poly Normande. It's to win the Cobbled Classics, I think. So here are the transfers. Bardet out. That's the biggest exit. He's just... I think of Bardet, I think of AG2R. Like, even their personalities are almost, I think of as the same. Viermoz. So Bardet to DSM, Viermoz to TDE, Genier, and Pierre Latour, one of the talented riders who maybe went off the boil, TDE as well. Sylvain Dillier to Alpecin Phoenix. Stein Vandenberg, I think, might be retired or looking for a team. Quentin Jaregui to PMB. Axel Dumont, Clément Chevrier, don't know who they are. Antoine Ragel to FDJ Conti. Tanfield went to... he went to Saint Piran or something, the British Conti team, but then got signed by Quebec Assos, and Simon Verger, I think, might be retired looking for a team. So Bardet, I think Bardet was looking for something different, Benji. Obviously, I don't think they're paying him that. Like, I don't think DSM gave him a Godfather offer like a UAE or an ISU or an Ineos team. I think he wanted something different. So that's fine. But do you think that they have misused Bardet or underutilized his talents across maybe the last 3 or 4 years?
It's a really difficult thing to mention because obviously we've seen over the years that he started off hunting for stages, went into a bit of a role leading the team. Eventually that kept on going, and at a certain point he was a significant candidate to podium the likes of a Tour de France. And I believe they didn't necessarily misuse him. I do believe that he could have won a bunch more stages in Grand Tours if they would have done that. But with French teams and French GC riders, you've got the dream. You've got the French dream of winning the Tour de France. It's been so many years. And it's pressure. And I don't think there's much else you can do once you've got someone like that in your team. That's the same thing with Guillaume Martin at Cofidis. I do not believe you can send Guillaume Martin to the Tour de France and not go for GC, because it's the iconic French dream to go for GC, to try and win that yellow, the maillot jaune, as a French rider on French terrain in a French team. And I think that pressure came down on Bardet hard, and that's one of the reasons he had such sudden, terrible performances like that one time trial at the end of some Tour de France. I don't remember which one, where he basically lost everything in the span of that time trial. And I think it's good that he's leaving for him and for AG2R, because AG2R is out of that loop of having to put a whole team into the Tour de France to try and bring Bardet to something. And also Bardet is out of that loop of having all the French pressure on him, and he can go to DSM. He can ride under less pressure because it's not a French team. He doesn't necessarily need to focus on the Tour de France, although he likely will be a part of that team. I would dare to say. I think
He's not
I
even
think it's
he's not even like DSM aren't going to be sending him like as out and out leader for things all the time, every race. So that's good. That's
yeah.
less pressure. It's part of the. He's part of the maybe the SKA, Bardet, Casa Pedersen stage hunting crew.
I kind of agree. And I think you've got that with a bunch of riders on the exit here. Like Pierre Latour was also meant to be the next Bardet. He was great at time trialing. He was starting off as stage hunting as well. I think in La Vuelta there was one stage where he kept on suffering, and he's one of the riders when he's suffering, he can break through that wall 20,000 times until he eventually wins the stage or loses the stage, but tried so hard trying to win it. And when it comes to GC, it never really came out. He had that crash, I think, 2 years ago or 1 year ago that basically ruined the season. And I think he's still kind of feeling the consequences of that comeback. I believe exiting AG2R is also good for both ends because AG2R doesn't need to focus on trying to build him into a godly GC rider. And Latour is going to a team that will likely see him as one of the better riders for GC. He won't have to be under what was Bardet in the past, although he wouldn't have to be under that if he stayed at AG2R either, so that argument isn't really worth that much at the moment. I do feel it's worth it for both to leave each other, and that is going to benefit both as well in the long run. Genien and Viamos, yeah, I don't think they're going to be missed. They were good riders. They could perform on their day. They could take a stage win on their day. Are they going to win stage wins at TDE? Perhaps. I see it a bit unlikely these days, but I don't think they're going to miss it at AG2R. They've got a new squad that I do believe can do
Yeah.
that better.
Well,
Stan van den Berg.
here's the new
Yeah,
squad.
sorry.
Here's the new squad.
Okay.
Cobbled, like completely turning on its head. Greg Van Avermaet, Bob Jungels, Michael Scher, Damien Touze, and Gijs Van Hoeke, and Standevold.
Yes.
Those are all cobbled guys. Belgians, Luxembourger, Swiss rider, and Scher. Touze's French, but he might not necessarily make the cut for the big cobbled races. But that Jungels, Van Avermaet, Oliver Naesen trio is very nasty, and Scher is not a man to be underestimated either. He was brave enough to get into breaks on flat races in the wind when no one else was. I think Benji last year in the Tour, maybe with Stefan Kung, I think on stage 10 or 11, literally the most boring stage I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah.
Really question. I was like, I wish I was back at midnight doing due diligence review in my law firm for minimum wage because this race sucks. But he was the only man brave enough with Kung to go in that break. So watch out for Scher as well. But yeah, what do you make of this? All these signings, Benji? And first off, do you think are they buying too late on these riders? Have their peaks passed them?
I don't think so. I believe in what they are doing here. I think you've got a certain opinion that I'll likely go into later on, but regarding these transfers, it's a clear twist from GC centered to Cobble centered. I think that's a good change for the team. I believe that the squad they are bringing in has the following riders with Van Avermaet and Scher, basically a duo since they started at BMC. When it comes to cobbles, you don't get them really out of each other, and Scher is pretty good at the cobbles and can help the likes of Van Avermaet and the team out. Stan de Wolf, young guy, looking forward to see what he will grow into. I believe that he's pretty talented. He's perhaps one of the more talented cobble talents we have, together with the likes of Florian Vermeersch. Gijs van Hoeke, also pretty good on the cobbles. I'm not 100% sure about Damien Touze. I don't know his results too much by heart, but I wouldn't underrate Marc at all because on paper you'd say, yeah, sprinter. Yeah, decent sprinter. He can get results here and there in smaller French races. I recall him doing well in Roubaix at some point, top 30 somewhere. And if you can get a top 30 at Roubaix, yeah, 26th here in 2018, for example, And I believe if you can get 26th in Roubaix, then you certainly deserve to be on the Cobbled Team of a team as well. And that strengthens their Cobbled squad as well, while on paper it wouldn't necessarily look like he would be part of that team if you see his name pop up on the spreadsheet, first of all. But what do you think of the likes of a Ben O'Connor, for example, joining the team?
I think it's a great signing because you're probably getting a minimum wage, and he can win a Grand Tour stage. If you put him in the right Grand Tour, probably not the Tour, either pick the Giro or the Vuelta, send him and say get him breaks like you did for NTT in 2020 in the Giro, and he did day in day out, and he was at the pointy end of those breakaways in the medium mountain and they were medium mountain stages, and he won a stage at the Giro. So 25 years old, 1 year deal. I think that's their plan for him. But Greg Van Avermaet, I don't think he's winning a race this year of any description. I think his peak is past. He's 35, and yeah, that's just my view. Benji he hasn't won a race since he hasn't won a cobbled race since Roubaix in 2017, unless
Wait, he won RVV last year online.
oh yeah, online Tour of Flanders. Well, I don't know whether his Tax Neo or whatever he was using was actually doing the motion of riding over the cobbles. If it was, then obviously that counts, but it might not have. So I also don't know whether it was Tour of Luxembourg stages had some cobbles in them. But what I'm saying is the days of him winning in 2017, Benji. He won the Olympics gold in August in 2016. Then he won Omloop, Relbecker, Hen-Wevelgem, and then Roubaix in 2017. That is fucking crazy. And then he won.
Man.
Yeah, that is crazy. So I don't think that's. I mean, it's not a hot take to say that's not happening again, but I think it's.
Yeah.
I think he's not winning again in the cobbles in the big races. At least not this year. I think Jungels is the man. I think Bob Jungels has been miscast, and I think he'd admit that and has said he just wants to focus on cobbles and one day now. This man's won Liège and Kern of Russell Kern. He's got a lot of wins throughout his career already. He's 28. I think he's got some really good cobbled years ahead of him, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him with MVDP Alaphilippe and Wout van Aert in Flanders if he gets it right this year. I'd expect that more than Van Avermaet, to be honest. Maybe I'm hyping Jungels too much, but I just think he lost his way a bit with trying to balance GC, and like he came sixth in the Giro GC in 2016, and then won the I think it must be difficult trying to do all of that, to be honest, unless you're really like a freak rider. Anyway, onto their team.
Cobbled Team.
Yeah, onto their Cobbled Team, which we've just been talking about. Obviously, it's going to be Van Avermaet, Gijs van Hokke, Van Hokke, Cher, Naesen, Oliver Naesen, that is Bob Jungels. And you think Cosnefroy, Benji?
Yes, he's not planning to, but I would put him in Tour of Flanders. I would also put him in the likes of Itri Harelbeke. I would not put him in Gent-Wevelgem, Kuurne, perhaps not even Omloop. I believe he could do well in Omloop, as in a top 10, but they've got so many riders that could do well on those races that it doesn't really matter if you put Cosnefroy in there as well or not. I think there's a significant way that you can use this team when it comes to strategy. I think AG2R La Mondiale Citroën. Their shirts say it the other way around. AG2R Citroën La Mondiale. But this team, I think you can use them to try and spin the race in a certain way. You've got Jungels, who specialized in attacking early. We saw that multiple times when he was at the Koenig in his Cobble days. I think it was Kuurne or Omloop or one of those races that he was up there. Then also the Dwars of Vlaanderen that Mathieu van der Poel won was one of the early attackers with Van der Poel. I think Jungels is the rider you send forward in one of those early attacks, in that group that rides away, and that could have a role in either putting the guys in the back in a seat on a throne or in actually finishing off the stage in that group. Jungels does not have the best sprint, so he would have to ride away from that group. That's his downside. I believe that Oliver Naesen and Van Avermaet are better at the later parts of a race. So when it comes down to the all-out favorites going for it, I think those two are the ones that can stay there. But Greg Van Avermaet had the problem in all his years since 2017 that he's always on the wrong side of a split. Who else? Oliver Naesen. And that's not great if you got two riders that are always on the wrong side of a split. Perhaps putting them together right now with proper surrounding support with, De Wolf, Gijs van Hoeken, and so forth, then I think that's going to change quite a bit in that option. I think they're going to be up there more and they're going to be in the right position at more times. I said it, Oliver Naesen was, in my opinion, third best rider. Well, fourth best. I'm not counting Alaphilippe because he wasn't on their spread results page up there, but obviously Alaphilippe was up there with the top two of that race.
And Naesen he was second in the Tour of Flanders stage of Bink Bank as well.
Yes, but he's also got a bit of a history with that race, basically getting fifth, fourth, first, second in that race every single year. So,
well, that seems to be his problem. He's never really won the big one, right? I think his biggest win in terms of beating top guys was that Belgian national champs win. That one of the closest wins ever. But yeah, he's always just been close and not quite got there. He's good friends with Van Avermaet, I think. And but yeah, that's their Cobbled Team. I agree with Benji that Cosnefroy would be a very useful addition in some of those races. And I see no reason why he wouldn't do well in Tour of Flanders, to be honest. And I'd even send him to Paris-Roubaix because I think he's super talented. He's done well at Paris Tour and he's not a climber. He's just see how he goes. He probably wouldn't do well, but whatever, just send him. He's one of your biggest riders on the team, and I think he's actually, you could try and make him into a bit of a superstar. The Ardennes team, pretty obvious, to be honest. APP, Aurélien Peintre, who just won, what did he just win, Benji? Marseillaise, is that right? Yeah. He won Grand Prix La Marseillaise. I don't know, it's not Spanish, so I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Jungels, Nance Peters, Cosnefroy, Champoussin, Cher, maybe Vendrame and Venturini. What are their purpose, Benji? Do they do those races? I think they did.
I don't think Venturini could do those, but Vendrame could do Milan San Remo style races. The thing with Vendrame is he's like so good at multiple things, but I don't know about his history on the cobbles because Androni didn't really necessarily ride those. So it's difficult to judge based on that. I think Vendrame is very good off on those Italian classics and could also basically win a stage in a Grand Tour if he sets his mind to it. Sestriere this year was pretty amazing. But regarding cobbles, I don't know what he can do there. I don't necessarily believe in it. He's decent at Strade-like races, but I wouldn't put him in the cobble team because you've got so many riders in this team that can do the cobble races that it's not necessary to go to someone like Vendrame and say, hop in the team. Venturini could go to these though. Venturini, Paris-Roubaix style races, but I also believe there's better riders in the team.
But for the Ardennes, am I missing somebody? Is it just Cosnefroy, Jungels as leaders? Am I missing O'Connor going to Liège? Is there someone else you would take as well?
I don't know. I think Cosnefroy is number one.
Race.
I think Cosnefroy can win the race.
Yeah. I think it just makes sense to ride for those two, to be honest. Maybe they got other plans for Jungels and he doesn't want to do the Ardennes anymore.
He wants to.
Oh, really?
And I think it really plays out in the same way again. I think Jungels is the kind of rider you send up a bit early. You're not going to send him up Flèche Wallonne, up the Mur de Huy in the peloton. You're going to try and do a Mauri van Zevenand like last year. Attack early and try it that way, like Uran tried to do towards Mauri van Zevenand, because technically van Zevenand was in the breakaway already. But I think if it comes down to the actual punchy finish, it's Cosnefroy. If it comes down to attacking early, it's Jungels. And that's straight up the only two riders on this team that I see doing it in those races, except for the talented riders we don't know their ceiling of yet, like that Aurélien Peintre.
Well, you know what? He came
know.
third in Tour de Doube last year. Benji one-day race that usually sometimes has some quite good riders who then kick on from there. He came third, but there's a breakaway one. But second, who won the bunch sprint? Biniam Girmay. I tweeted at Nippo. I said, "Why the fuck is Biniam Girmay not at Grand Prix Cycliste La Marseillaise?" I didn't get a response.
Yeah.
I know it was if he's been in Africa and he's quarantining or whatever, but yeah, I just had the obligatory mention of him at all possible moments to say why isn't he in these races? Anyway, that's their Ardennes leaders. Giro, I don't know. I don't know, Benji. I think you send Vendrame and Venturini and Peters. I don't, O'Connor again. Jaco Hanen, the Finnish rider. He's quite talented. Then Gastower, Galopin. You just send a stage hunting squad, right? Champoussin?
To the Giro. I would actually I would go for a stage hunting squad like Vendrame, but I'd also dare to put someone in there that could go for GC. And this is one of the discussions we've had quite a few times. What's better, going for a top 15 or going for stages? And I think it depends on the rider. I think top 15 is kind of the edge on where you can say perhaps it's good for a young rider to try and go for GC if he can go in one of his first Grand Tours for a top 15 to see how good he is against the other GC riders. Paddy Panther got 16th in the Giro last year. I think with what he's shown already this year in Marseillaise, with what I believe he can do on a parcours that I think has less time trial kilometers, if the rumored parcours is true, because we still don't know what the actual parcours is, amazing, then I would dare to put Paddy Panther in one of those races, either Giro or Vuelta, and aim for GC with him. Champoussin, same story, was at the Vuelta in the same fashion. The problem is, if they end up in the top 25, the end of top 25, then it's not worth it to keep trying, and then you got to switch towards trying to go for stage, and that's what a lot of these riders don't do, and that's their mistake, I think. If they can't make it to the level that they hope to do GC-wise, they should switch, and I think they need to do that. But Nils Peters needs to go to... It's difficult. The man could win literally a stage in every Grand Tour, so
he's got to go.
I wouldn't know.
I think
for France, yeah.
I think you got to send Champoussin and Peters to the Tour. I think you take Calmagin and Frank or Galopin, Gastower, Vendrame, take them to the Giro, and maybe a sprinter. I don't know. You got to take a sprinter too, Sarro or Tuesday. They don't really have a great sprinter, but yeah, take them to the Giro, and then the Tour is all about Cosnefroy getting yellow on stage 2. That's pretty obvious. That's what they're targeting on Mur de Bretagne. He'll be right up there, and then trying to hold that yellow jersey for as long as possible, just like the KOM jersey last year. And they're lucky that there's no mountains for like 10 days.
The time trials is going to ruin him.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah. Stage 5 TT, he's gone. Because of, yeah. All right, well, okay, they'll try to hold it for 3 days, 4 days if they get it. Do you think they take some of the cobbled guys to the Tour?
Yeah. I think Oliver Naesen, Greg van Avermaet, those are Tour de France riders you send. Why? Well, they don't necessarily... I think Oliver Naesen has always been a bit on the leash of Bardet. Last year, that was not really the case, but he was riding on eco mode, was what was being said, for the cobbles after the Tour de France. That's not happening this year on paper. If something changes, we'll hit you up about it. But right now the couples are before the Tour de France, so he would be able to fully go for individual stage wins as well in the same fashion that Van Avermaet did at BMC and CCC back in the day. And he also tried it, Oliver Naesen, at the final stage of Dauphiné or Paris-Nice in one of the last years, where he got second or third on a mountain stage. I think it was Paris-Nice, but I don't remember. My memories are
like
messing up right now.
Van Avermaet can win a medium mountain stage, so it makes sense to take him. He can really climb. So I think take them. They're experienced. There's also could be some windy days in some of the Brittany stages early on in the tour, so they could end up trying to get with two Tour de France stage wins in their pocket in the first week. That could be a target for them. So that's the team I think they'll send to the tour, and should send. I think Pater's you have to send again. He's a great breakaway guy, and just target breakaways, target weird stages. Like that stage, what was the stage, Benji, that SKA, the second one he won? That sort of stage.
No.
The
second one was the 19th. Okay.
19th one, where literally every classics guy got into a random break, like Trentin and Sagan and co. And this time it'll be Naesen and Van Avermaet there together, and they'll be able to attack, whereas it was SKA being able to counter, and no one chased him back. So I'll ask you at the end, because I've got a question to really wind you up. Vuelta team, I got no idea, Benji. Presumably you just send the young lads. Do you think Marc Thoreau is good enough to win a Vuelta stage?
Depends on who's there. I think Thoreau can win a sprint in the Giro as well, depending on who's there. But yeah, I actually believe Thoreau is not actually a bad rider. I think he's a solid rider that can do well in a Grand Tour sprint. If Gerben Thijssen can get second in a Vuelta sprint, then Thoreau can definitely get second. If he can win, depends on the field at that Grand Tour. I wouldn't put my money on it at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's just like a fine sprinter who's there or thereabouts. He's come 5th and 4th in Vuelta sprints before. A little bit of luck goes your way. Who knows? I think they should also send Venturini and Vendrame to the Vuelta as well, depending on what the parkour looks like. And Cosnefroy, if he can back up, I would send him to the Vuelta if they got some punchy finishes for it. Like, think about those finishes Roglic won last year, Benji, where it was kind of a nothing stage, right? Yes. People had Bennett down, Sam that is, or the sprinters for it. They rock up to the climb. Oh, wait, it's actually 2Ks at 7%. And Roglic was attacking Dan Martin on there. Like, those would suit Cosnefroy perfectly. So,
but not only that way. Like, ride it like Wellens did. Go in the breakaways in that form.
Exactly.
And that way you can get stage wins. Plain old stage wins that way. I truly believe that Cosnefroy might genuinely, at the end of 2021, be the rider that carried AG2R Mondial through the season, because I really believe he's underrated on many accords.
I think he's their best rider easily. I don't think it's close. Easily their best rider. Capable of taking yellow against the best punchers on stage 2, that's peak for them and target for their season. And I think capable of winning the most races, and also World Tour and Grand Tour stages. But anyway, that's our teams for them. Lombardia, O'Connor, Peters, and co. What about Milano Sanremo, Benji? Do you think they ride for Oliver Naesen or Van Avermaet, or how's that going to work? And this is the question I was going to wind you up with. Benji, what makes you think two Belgians with similar attributes is going to work too well together? I mean, from what I've seen, I reckon people are going to go up the road. There's going to be people looking at each other, like happened with SKA. They didn't collaborate well when they're on other teams, even when they're incentivized to work. Do you think it's going to be seamless teamwork?
I believe in the fact that they're really good friends on the bike. On the bike as well, because they're basically riding together and training together. But I believe that they're going to have, those are the two riders that I would see working together in a group if it's required. And I don't think it's going to be an Astana situation where you've got 3 riders of the same team that are not doing anything. I certainly believe that Naesen and Van Avermaet are mature enough to come to a conclusion of who is the best on that day and do something about it. And also, when it comes to Milano Sanremo, I think you got to look it into accords as well. I am not sure about Cosnefroy's planning, but he's likely not going to Milano Sanremo. I would put him in Milano Sanremo because I believe that Cosnefroy has the punch to follow Alaphilippe on the Poggio.
Yep, I agree.
And I just don't believe that his sprint is as good as Alaphilippe, but that's just a detail for after the Poggio. We'll figure out how to beat Alaphilippe in that team then afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, he's
But,
already dropped Schachmann at this point.
Damn it. Oliver Naesen and Van Avermaet would be just sitting in the group behind Vendrame, honestly, kind of as well, and trying to finish it off in that group. But it's kind of unlikely for those two riders due to the fact that I think there's just better sprinters at the moment that would also be in that group. Van der Poel would be in that group, if not in front of it. Van Aert would be in that group, if not in front of it. So,
I mean,
yeah, I find it really tough.
All these other teams should really team up and try and do something earlier than the Poggio and do it on the Civiglio and attack there so that...
On the Civiglio in Lombardia.
Oh, not the Civiglio. Gee, the Cipressa.
Cipressa.
Jesus. And no one's going to edit that out. Maybe if they put the Civiglio in, it might be a more interesting race for longer.
Yeah, I don't believe in attacking on the Cipressa at all. I don't think it's viable, and I don't think people should try it. I think it would make the race interesting, but it's also basically a death sentence for yourself. Milano Sanremo gets a side on the Poggio, full stop, and
that's the rules.
I don't believe in anything else unless they change the parkour, which I'm not sure I'd be. Yeah, it depends on what they do with it, because I feel like I like it because there's like an in-betweener for the punchers and the sprinters.
Historical comparisons, I really liked it because similar parkour. You know how the race works out. I do like the Sanremo parkour because I know you're just tuning with 20 to go. But before we get to our hot takes and predictions, here's the AG2R Citroën hot take, Superfan hot take from Graham all the way in America. Didn't know they had AG2R fans in America, but you guys surprise me every day. Here it is.
Ladies and gents, good evening. I salute you with a beer in my hand. My name is Graham Henderson, aka Spoketator. Nobody knows who that is, and that's perfectly fine. But the reason I'm chiming in on the LRCP with Benji and Lanterne is to talk about one of the most controversial clubs in the World Tour. That's right, the Lucky Brown Shorts, AG2R Citroën. Did they get an uglier uniform in the offseason? Yes, they did. Are they still wearing brown shorts? Yes, they are. But guess what? Where we saw Sunweb attack the whole world and show the World Tour how to win races and win stages and one-day events, these guys are going to do the same thing this year. So there's going to be a wolf pack, there's going to be the chemical kids at DSM, and we've got the AG2R Armada, who's bringing Belgium back, baby. Greg Van Avermaet, we know he's on the back nine, but he's going to be able to sit in the wheels. He doesn't have to close down a damn thing with the likes of Bob Youngel on this team. Calamajan. They got a ton of guys that are really aggressive, really good racers. I think they're going to exploit that. I think Van Avermaet called them out to the point where they actually have a World Tour caliber bicycle underneath them now in BMC, and they're not riding Walmart bikes. And if you're a degenerate like I am, I had to take a sip of the beer there, sorry. Stan de Wolf, write down the name. That's a young guy. I think he's on the come. You're going to get some good value. And I think that this team, we've already seen it at Passage. APP went out for that W after he attacked like 6 times in the last couple kilometers. So I think they figured out, A, how to train in the modern era, B, how to use a really strong team with a bunch of really attacking, forward-thinking, aggressive dudes on the road. This should be fun to watch, even though I can't stand looking at them because that's the ugliest kit in the history of sports. Thanks, boys.
Hot take time, Benji. My first one. Greg Van Avermaet does not win a race in 2021. And
okay.
I'm not even sure if that's a hot take. And neither does Oliver Naesen.
Okay.
But I think Jungels wins 2 World Tour level races. And that might also be because of the good work of Oliver Naesen and Greg Van Avermaet. But I think he's the one that will be winning the races.
Okay. When it comes to my hot takes, I think that I'm mainly going to focus on stage wins here. I think that Nas Peters is not a hot take. He's going to win a Grand Tour stage, just like I said last year he would. Yeah, I'm saying it. It's not a hot take. That's fine. That's all good. But if Banter's going to top 10 the Giro, does he go there? That's a good question, actually.
Make it a top
Damn,
5.
he's not even going to the Giro. He's going to the Tour. Damn it.
Oh, really? That makes sense.
He's going to win a stage at the Tour then.
That's okay. That's fair enough.
Cosnefroy is going to podium LBL.
Yep.
And
I think Cosnefroy is going to top. I think he's going to podium. Nah, that's ridiculous. I was going to say he's going to podium Amstel, Flesh, and Liège. I think he's going to.
I honestly believe in it at the moment. Like,
I think he's going to.
He's going to top 5 all 3. I think he's going to do a Schachmann 20.
He's going to top 5 all 3, and he's going to podium 2 of them, and he's going to win a stage at Basque Country. Yep, that's my hot takes about Cosnefroy.
Okay, last one. I think Jean Poussin is going to win a World Tour race and make his proper breakthrough this season. It's not a super hot take, but it's something that I believe in and I do think might actually genuinely happen. Yeah. And I think that's basically it. Perhaps a Vendrame Giro stage win would also be a nice one. But at this point, that's also kind of not a hot take that he's got the option to do that if the cards fall right.
All right, time for over-unders, Benji. 12 wins in 2021. So quite low. They've won 14 and 16 or so before. Only 5 in 2020, but as I said, a weird season. And they've got new recruits in. So 12 is the over-under, and I need you to specify above or under 5 World Tour level wins too.
Okay, I think they're going to win more victories than last year. I think they're going to win more World Tour races than last year. And I think the majority of those are going to be Cosnefroy-centered, but also the youngsters. People like Paris-Pentre, like in Marseillaise. He's already got one on the menu. Jean Poussin, Nas Peters with a Grand Tour stage win or 2, depending on how good his feeling is in those Grand Tours. Ben O'Connor could also do some stuff. They've got so many options for stage wins, and it's severe strength for the team. When it comes to cobble race, it's going to be really tough with the competition they have, but I do believe they're going to pick up 1, so that's an extra World Tour 1 as well.
I agree. I'm taking the over on both, over 12 wins, over 5 World Tour wins. Because there's going to be riders like, Gaston might win a stage of Luxembourg, Marc Serrault, he could win 2 or 3 French 1-1 races, Benji, or 2-1 stages. Jules and Co. And I think they're going to rack up some wins. So I think over 12, I think is almost, I'm not going to say it's a lock, but I'd be very, very surprised if it didn't happen. That was our AG2R Citroën 2021 preview. As you can tell, we are fully aboard the Cosnefroy hype train. He is, I think
mate.
People just saw him in KOM jersey, French rider on AG2R, and they're like, oh, it's another. This is maybe like casual fans. Another French climbing guy. No.
Another Gallo fan.
He is a legit puncher. He's top class, and he's going to be up there in big, big races this year.
Yes.
Thanks for listening as always. See you later. Ciao.